Hi, everyone. Welcome to NiceGamLii Chanel. If you find this content interesting or helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. Your support means so much to me, and it helps me create even better content. Thank you so much.
Xia Xiaoxiao sighed. I have to get busy. She said see you later, and then hung up the phone. Tanu president's office. After listening to what the people Su Lingyan sent had to say, Suzy immediately burst into uncontrollable laughter. Lu Yan's so-called revenge was to use Xincheng Entertainment to go against Tianyu. Was this guy kicked in the head by a donkey? Xincheng versus Tianyu. Isn't that like an egg smashing against a rock? Besides, Xincheng only has one artist worth mentioning right now, and even that artist is planning to jump ship to Tianyu. Xincheng is just an empty shell. How can it compete with Tianyu, which dominates half the entertainment industry? Just as he finished speaking, the office door was knocked. After receiving permission, the HR manager walked in cautiously. President Su, Chen Jing wants to renew the contract with Xincheng. She's not coming to Tianyu anymore. If she's not coming, so be it, Suzy said impatiently. A second-tier actress. Does she really think she's that important? As long as Tianyu moves a finger, does she think she can still survive in the industry? Su Lingyan's face also darkened. She manually pulled up Chen Jing's latest announced schedule. She tapped her fingers lightly on the desk. Kezin, come over. Not long after, a handsome male star walked in. President Su, you called for me? Kezin asked. Su Lingyan glanced at him. I have a task for you. Tell the director to drop Chen Jing. Kezin was stunned for a moment, but he didn't ask any questions. Chen Jing had no idea she was about to be stabbed in the back. After signing the renewal, she immediately headed to the outdoor variety show filming site. Meanwhile, I was familiarizing myself with the company's rules and procedures, making some adjustments along the way. However, before I could finish reading through them, Simon hurriedly rushed in. President Lu, something happened to Chen Jing. I paused my fingers. What happened? Simon quickly replied. It's about the outdoor variety show that Chen Jing was supposed to join today. But the entire crew just arrived there today and was told by the director that they were not needed for filming. To put it bluntly, they were kicked out. My expression turned cold. I'll go take a look. Before long, we arrived at the scene. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Dingla arguing with the director. Meanwhile, Chen Jing was sitting under a temporary outdoor sunshade, with her eyes downcast, lost in thought. As I walked forward, Chen Jing seemed to sense something and looked over. Then she froze for a moment, put down the bottle of mineral water in her hand, and stood up, walking toward me. President Lu, why are you here? I glanced at the celebrity guests present and focused on the director, then stared at Kezin standing beside him for 2 seconds. What exactly is going on? Chen Jing ran her fingers through her hair and replied with an indifferent tone. It's nothing major. This is just how the entertainment industry works. The higher you go, the harder you fall. I'm fine. Tianyu's contract getting suppressed is not surprising, but the production team is clearly in the wrong here. Even if I can't record anymore, I can still get compensation for damages. It's not a loss. Looking at the girl who was comforting herself, I felt a little uneasy inside. You stay here and wait. I'll handle this. Chen Jing raised her hand and grabbed mine. No need, she said. I lowered my head and glanced at Chen Jing, and quickly withdrew my hand as if electrocuted. The director caught sight of me from the corner of his eye, and a trace of amazement flashed in his eyes. Which company are you signed with? Simon, who was following beside me, froze, and turned to glance at our company president. At first, he had prejudices against me because of my connections, but then he was shocked by my presence and identity. He didn't even realize that our company president could also survive in the industry just by looks alone. Kezin also noticed my appearance and immediately became wary. I looked at Wang Fei with a cold expression. I'm not an artist. I'm the president of Xincheng Entertainment. I just want to ask, what mistake did my artist make that you decided to breach the contract last minute? Hearing me call her my artist, Chen Jing's ears turned slightly red. Even though she knew I was just saying it casually, a hint of sweetness still rose in her heart. Upon hearing that I wasn't an artist, Kezin secretly let out a breath of relief, but still looked down on Xincheng Entertainment, and was equally disdainful of my position as its president, under the director's pleading gaze. He crossed his arms and stepped forward, arrogantly speaking to me. Kid, you're new to this industry, aren't you? In the entertainment world, some things don't need a reason. With my current status, kicking out a second-tier celebrity is just a matter of a single word. My eyes narrowed slightly. You don't seem the least bit afraid of being recorded. Daring to make such bold claims in public. There are only two possibilities. Either you're an idiot, or you have strong backing. If it's the former, you wouldn't have even made it to your current status before getting eliminated. Kezan acted as if he had just heard a joke. His assistant beside him also laughed unrestrainedly. You didn't do your research before coming, did you? Our brother Zheng's backing is from the imperial capital. His second sister, Xia Xiaoxiao, is also the master of Xiamen. You know Xiamen, right? Dared to provoke the boyfriend of Xiamen's master. Are you tired of living? I was speechless. I had guessed he must have a strong backing. But I never expected that person to be my own second sister. It's one thing if they don't know I'm the young master of the Xia family, but do they also not know that Xincheng Entertainment is under the Xia family? Well, I guess Xincheng Entertainment is just a small player in the industry. Not many people can actually associate it with the massive Xia corporation. Even in my past life, I only learned about it when Xincheng went bankrupt. Simon was equally speechless, but I remained silent, so he also held back for now. Kezan saw that I wasn't speaking and thought I was scared. His attitude became even more arrogant. So, you really recorded it just now? As he spoke, he signaled to his assistant on the side. Give me his phone. Simon was no longer going to sit idly by. Just as he was about to reveal my identity, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xia Xiaoxiao leading a group of people walking over. Kezan also noticed the woman approaching, and his eyes immediately lit up. He instantly forgot about us and ran straight to Xia Xiaoxiao. Why are you here? Did you come to check on me? Xia Xiaoxiao smiled faintly at the man, her tone unreadable. Who dared to bully you? Kezan turned and pointed at me. It's him. He used a recording to threaten me. A flicker of emotion flashed through Xia Xiaoxiao's eyes. So, what do you want to do? Kezan, completely unaware of the impending danger, spoke in a malicious tone. I'm not an unreasonable person. I just want to set an example. Just help me ruin his face. The moment he finished speaking, everyone at the scene gasped. Almost everyone looked at me with sympathy. Chen Jing watched Xia Xiaoxiao warily, wondering if she should mention her friendship with Xia. But then she thought that such a connection was insignificant in front of her boyfriend, and decided against it, just as everyone thought Xia Xiaoxiao would stand up for Kezan. She suddenly reached out and slapped Kezan. You told me to ruin his face? At that moment, everyone at the scene froze. For a moment, they couldn't tell who Xia Xiaoxiao was talking to, or whose face she wanted to ruin. Kezan was completely stunned. Xiaoxiao, what are you doing? I told you to ruin that guy's face. But Xia Xiaoxiao turned and walked towards me, and gently took my arm. My younger brother was finally found with great difficulty. I cherish him too much, and you want me to scar his face? As soon as Xia Xiaoxiao finished speaking, everyone at the scene was dumbfounded. Kezan instantly turned pale. The person in front of him was actually his younger brother. Then what had he just done? A wave of overwhelming panic surged over him. Kezan's trembling voice pleaded, I'm sorry, Xiaoxiao. I was wrong. I didn't know he was your brother. Xia Xiaoxiao sneered coldly. He returned his words back to him exactly as they were. Then let's make a small sacrifice. Scar your face instead. Kezan was so scared that he almost collapsed. I'm an artist. My face is the most important thing. You can't ruin my face. I'm begging you. Quote Xia Xiaoxiao seemed not to have heard him, turning his head towards Zhongying. What are you standing there for? Do it. Zhongying immediately nodded. Yes. The next moment, a scream like that of a slaughtered pig rang out. Everyone at the scene turned their heads away in fear. Xia Xiaoxiao's gaze swept across the people present. Finally, it landed on the show director Wang Fei. The moment their eyes met, Wang Fei broke out in a cold sweat. Second Miss Da. I haven't offended your esteemed brother, have I? As he said that, he paused. I'll immediately kick Kezan out of the cast and give Chen Jing more screen time. What do you think? Xia Xiaoxiao didn't seem to be making things difficult for him, nor did he pay him any attention. Instead, he turned to me and, somewhat uneasily, said, Zhao Yan, second sister isn't trying to interfere in your affairs. It's just that you just took office, and I'm worried, so I kept an eye on things. Besides, this matter started because of me. You wouldn't blame second sister, right? This sudden change in attitude left everyone at the scene utterly shocked. I gently replied, of course not. Xia Xiaoxiao let out a sigh of relief. Then he turned to look at everyone present. Today's incident, if anyone dares to speak of it. He didn't finish his sentence, but the threat was crystal clear. Everyone present shrank their necks in fear. No one dared to provoke Xia Xiaoxiao's anger. I gave Chen Jing a few instructions, then I parted ways with Xia Xiaoxiao. Dingla rubbed his stiff face. He raised his hand and pulled Chen Jing aside. Xincheng, are you sure you still want to pursue President Liu? Chen Jing ignored him. She just trembled slightly and took out her phone to text Xia Xiaoxiao. Sis, my love life might be coming to an end. Your second sister is way too ruthless. A reply quickly came from the other side. What does this have to do with my second sister? Chen Jing suddenly realized something. You don't know that your brother has been found, do you? She had just sent the message when a video call came through from the other side. As soon as Chen Jing answered, she saw Xia Xiaoxiao staring anxiously at her. Where is he? Where's my brother? It was the first time Chen Jing had seen her this panicked. She froze for a moment before realizing, he's already back. I'm at the variety show filming location now. Xia Xiaoxiao looked visibly disappointed, but she finally calmed down a little. How long has my brother been back? I don't know. Chen Jing answered honestly, I only saw him for the first time today, because he just took over Nuche. Xia Xiaoxiao sensed something off. Her cat-like eyes narrowed slightly. So the guy you said you fell in love with at first sight is my brother? It was the first time Chen Jing had felt such strong pressure from Xia Xiaoxiao. She was momentarily stunned. Before she could respond, Xia Xiaoxiao warned her, drop whatever feelings you have, or we can't be friends anymore. With that, she hung up the call. In Beatty, after hanging up, Xia Xiaoxiao called for Xia San. Book me a ticket home. Xia San hadn't even responded yet, when the chief editor beside him nervously asked, but this project isn't finished yet. Why are you suddenly going home? Xia Xiaoxiao explained. I'll finish it when I come back. My brother has been found. I'm going home. Xia San was also pleasantly surprised. Young master is back. I'll book the flight right away. The editor-in-chief looked like he was facing a major crisis. Teacher Xia, we're shooting this project to compete for an award. If we miss this opportunity, we'll have to wait 3 years. Xia Xiaoxiao glanced at him. I know what I'm doing. And remember this. Nothing is more important than my brother. The editor-in-chief had no more arguments, but Xia San, standing beside him, asked another question. Third miss, are you sure it's really young master who returned? Did you confirm with madam and the others? They all conspired to keep it from me. I'm not going to ask them. Xia Xiaoxiao narrowed her cat-like eyes, her gaze carrying an uncharacteristic chill. Make a call to the imperial capital for me. I need something done. Xia San leaned in to listen. His eyes widened instantly. Are you really going to do this? Xia Xiaoxiao let out a cold laugh. Are you afraid of my second sister's revenge? Xia San hesitated before nodding. Xia Xiaoxiao was speechless. If you don't do as I say, I'll throw you out to feed the snow wolves right now. Her gaze was ice-cold as she stared at him. Do you really think I won't dare? Xia San trembled. I will follow your orders. But may I ask something? Why are you targeting second miss? Xia Xiaoxiao snorted coldly. If even mom conspired to keep it from me, then it must have been Xia Qiangning's stupid idea. She didn't even need to think twice. At this moment, I had no idea a family war was about to break out. After parting ways with Xia Qiangning, I first went to you. I made some logistical arrangements. Then I collected a batch of pre-ordered items. I instructed Simon to head to the underground district where esports clubs gathered. Simon didn't understand why I wanted to go there. But she didn't ask further. She just focused on being my driver, while waiting at a red light at an intersection. A nearby television screen was broadcasting news about an esports competition. Simon, she couldn't help but stare at the girl on the TV screen. Her transformation is incredible. Last night, she led the team to victory again. And the key point is she's stunningly beautiful. She's literally every otaku's dream girl. Even if she weren't an esports player, she'd definitely make it big in the entertainment industry. I raised an eyebrow. You admire her that much? Simon nodded excitedly. Of course. She's the only female player in Load. Simon instinctively responded, then realized she was speaking to her own boss. She immediately became more reserved. Sorry, President Liu. I got too excited. I chuckled. It's fine. Talking about her idol, Simon suddenly turned into a chatterbox. The Shen isn't a celebrity, but his Weibo followers are on par with top-tier stars. He's the #1 jungler in the national server. Last year, the championship-winning mid laner, Ian Root, retired. This year, his successor, a rookie player, joined the team. Everyone doubted this female player's abilities. But as soon as the Shen took the stage, he led the team to win the global championship. The more Simon spoke, the more excited she became. And the Shen's coach is a legendary figure too. Seeing that she was about to go on forever, I pointed above, the lights turning green. Simon quickly focused on driving again. Oh, by the way, and team's base is also near the underground district. I had no plans to visit. I watched Lu Xiaohua on the screen. If it weren't for the tournament, he should have been at my recognition banquet. The car arrived at a quiet restaurant. Once inside, a waiter guided us to a private room. Simon didn't even ask who I was meeting. After placing my bag down, she said, "President Lu, I'll be leaving now." I took the menu the waiter handed me. Nodding slightly, I acknowledged her. As Simon reached the door, just as she was about to open it, the doors suddenly swung open from the outside. The first thing that came into view was a pair of unbelievably pale hands. Before Simon even looked up, a holy Shastrisk tea almost slipped out of her mouth. Lu Xiaohua was momentarily stunned when she saw Simon. Then she glanced behind him at me, making sure she hadn't walked into the wrong private room. She gave Simon a slight nod, then stepped past him into the room. As she walked over to me, the icy look in Lu Xiaohua's eyes melted instantly into a soft, adorable gaze. "Fifth brother." She took off her mask, revealing features that bore no resemblance to mine, yet were equally flawless and exquisite. I handed her the menu. Simon felt like she was losing her mind. Everything happening before her felt like a dream. "Someone, please explain what's going on." Her idol was actually the younger sister of her own boss. Such an intense gaze naturally caught Lu Xiaohua's attention. She took the menu, then looked up at Simon in confusion. I chuckled and explained, "This is Manager Tsai, a fan of yours apparently, and someone I know." Lu Xiaohua's expression softened immediately. She smiled at Simon. "Want an autograph?" In Simon's mind, Lu Xiaohua was synonymous with being cold and aloof. She had never seen her smile before, let alone smile at her. Simon was so overwhelmed that she stammered, But I didn't bring any paper or a pen." A nearby waiter chuckled. "We have some here, and team's base is nearby. Lu Xiaohua is a regular here. He's seen this happen often, so he doesn't react as dramatically as you." After getting the autograph, Simon wandered out of the room like a lost soul. She even bumped into the doorframe. I chuckled, then handed a black bag to Lu Xiaohua. "Keyboard, mouse, and such. Each one has your names on it." The rest of the guys got theirs too. "They're pretty lucky." Lu Xiaohua spoke in a childish, complaining tone, but there wasn't a hint of displeasure in her expression. As she accepted the black bag, she handed over a gift box she had brought. "Congratulations on finding your family." I glanced at her, not bothering with formalities. I took the gift box and set it aside. Then I reached for Lu Xiaohua's hand, placing my fingers on her wrist. Lu Xiaohua's gaze flickered, as if recalling something unpleasant. But in an instant, she returned to normal. "I'm fine. My health has always been good." After checking her pulse, I finally relaxed a little. "Still, don't be careless. We're not sure if that illness is hereditary. Regular checkups are necessary." Lu Xiaohua gave a soft smile though, "Right? Brother, since you're in the imperial capital, did your new girlfriend come with you too?" I chuckled. "Do you want to meet her?" Lu Xiaohua noticed that I didn't avoid the topic, and when I mentioned her, there was a love-struck expression written all over my face. She hesitated for a moment. "Brother, after what happened with Su Ling, you need to be more cautious in love. Watch out for people who might use you, especially now that your status is different. That person has only been with you for a short time, but she was willing to give up everything in Shen City and follow you to the imperial capital. Is it for you?" Or, she didn't finish her sentence, but the implication was clear. I couldn't help but laugh at her hesitation. "Do you think I'm blindly in love?" Lu Xiaohua gave me a look that said, "Isn't that obvious? When you were with Su Ling, no one could talk sense into you. You let that whole family leech off you. Now, you've barely started dating someone new, and you're already saying she's the one for life. And now you want to introduce her to me, someone who's practically your family. She wouldn't deny that in every other aspect. I was practically a genius, but when it came to judging people, she really had no faith in me. You're overthinking. He was originally from the imperial capital, and in every aspect, he's not inferior to me. You don't need to worry that he has ulterior motives towards me. I took out my phone and sent a message to you, Mengyao. You'll know when you see him later. Lu Xiaohua originally didn't take it seriously. Hearing this, he became even more skeptical. In his eyes, I was already at the top. Who could be more outstanding than him? Thinking about this, a figure suddenly flashed through his mind. The young lady next door, Yun Mengyao, while I was wholeheartedly focused on Su Lingyan. He was thinking, if only this person were my brother's girlfriend. Only someone like her would be worthy of his brother. But how could that be possible? Not to mention their family backgrounds and upbringing, which destined them to never cross paths. Even though his brother had now regained his status as the young master of the Xia family, he already had a new girlfriend. Thinking about this, he became even more unwelcoming towards his future sister-in-law, and secretly made up his mind. If that woman was as terrible as Su Lingyan, he would stop me at all cost from making the same mistake. Humph. While they were talking, the food was gradually being served. I told Lu Xiaohua to eat first. No need to wait, but he couldn't eat at all. His mind was full of plans to deal with the second vampire woman. He had checked the time countless times. The food was about to get cold. Lu Xiaohua finally couldn't hold back and said, "This person wouldn't dare not show up, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the private room was pushed open. Seeing the woman who walked in, Lu Xiaohua was instantly stunned. He didn't know if he was hallucinating about Yan Mengyao. How could she be here? Could it be that this was the new girlfriend his brother mentioned? Just as he was thinking about it, Yan Mengyao had already walked in. She placed the box she was holding on the table in front of Lu Xiaohua. I was preparing a meeting gift, so I was a bit late. Yan Mengyao said as she called over the waiter. Looking at the dishes on the table that were no longer steaming hot, she instructed, "Take these away and bring fresh ones based on the original menu." Yan Mengyao's actions after entering the private room undoubtedly confirmed Lu Xiaohua's guess. In his heart, he thought, holy crap. His initial anxiety instantly turned into excitement and relief. "You are the new girlfriend my brother mentioned." I chuckled at Lu Xiaohua's reaction. "So you already know her? Then I don't need to introduce you." Yan Mengyao also looked over curiously. Lu Xiaohua laughed. "We met once before at a business banquet. But she probably doesn't remember me." I raised an eyebrow and teasingly asked, like coaxing a child, "So, what do you think of me as your brother's new girlfriend? Do I pass your test?" Lu Xiaohua's face turned red as if he had been burned. He had planned to act dissatisfied, but he just couldn't bring himself to say it. Not to mention, Yan Mengyao's gift was still sitting right in front of him. Taking gifts puts you at a disadvantage. Eating someone's food makes it hard to speak harshly. In the end, he could only blurt out, "Your taste has finally improved." Yan Mengyao raised an eyebrow. Her gift was well worth it. After dinner, the three of them walked out chatting and laughing. The atmosphere was so harmonious it felt like a family of three. However, as soon as they stepped out of the private room, they unexpectedly ran into Su Lingyan and her brother. Su Lingyan hadn't expected to see me here either. At first, she thought about pretending not to notice, but for some reason, she stopped and greeted me instead. "I heard you took over Xincheng." I glanced at Su Lingyan with a half smile. "President Su, your information is quite up to date." Su Lingyan pretended not to catch the sarcasm in my tone. After exchanging a few pleasantries, she changed the topic. "But you've never been involved in the entertainment industry before. Do you really think you can take on Qianyu with Xincheng? Isn't that a bit too far-fetched?" I smiled. "Whether it's far-fetched or not, why don't you wait and see, President Su? At the very least, when it comes to Chen Jing's retention, Qianyu didn't exactly have the upper hand, did they?" Suzy laughed as if he had just heard a joke. "Sis, this guy doesn't actually think keeping Chen Jing means everything is settled, does he? If Qianyu wants to suppress him, what can a mere second-tier artist even do?" As he spoke, he suddenly seemed to realize something. His tone turned exaggeratedly sarcastic. "Wait, he doesn't actually know what kind of situation Chen Jing is facing today, does he? No wonder he can still sit here happily eating. Should we tell him? Susie thought that after saying this, I would show some kind of confusion or nervousness. But instead, I just looked at him with the same mocking gaze, as if watching a pathetic clown. That look completely infuriated Susie. He glared at me with hatred. You don't know yet, do you? Chen Jing's variety show today has been cancelled. And it's not just today's show. From now on, whether it's filming dramas or endorsements, as long as we make a move, he won't be able to get a single gig. I'd love to see how you plan to take on Qianyun with an empty shell. Lu Xiaohua, unaware of the situation beforehand, immediately became furious upon hearing this. He was about to speak up and argue with the two across from him, but Mengyao stopped him. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Susie. Seems like you forgot the lesson you learned at the Zheng family banquet. Her casual remark instantly made Susie clutch his face and take a step back in panic. Su Lingyan quickly pulled Susie behind her. Zizi's words may have been harsh, but I'm sure you understand the point. Today's suppression is just the beginning. If you insist on going against us, I won't be polite next time. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, and to think I just praised you for being well informed. To deal with my second-tier artist, you sacrificed a top-tier one. Is this what you call suppression? Then I hope you won't hold back even more in the future. Su Lingyan's face stiffened. What do you mean by that? But I didn't want to say another word to him. I turned and gestured to Mengyao and Lu Xiaohua. The three of us bypassed the siblings and walked out. Su Lin had no intention of asking further. She took out her phone and called Kezhen's agent. Beside her, Susie was still comforting his sister. Don't worry too much. He's probably bluffing. Our Kezhen is a big name. Even if he can't get rid of Chen Jing, there's no way anything could happen to him. Su Lingyan ignored him. As soon as the call connected, she immediately asked, what happened to Kezhen? Upon hearing the response from the other end, Su Lingyan's pupils suddenly contracted. Her phone slipped from her hand and shattered on the ground. The three of us had no interest in how the siblings reacted after learning the truth. This small incident didn't affect us at all. After leaving the restaurant, Mengyao and I walked Lu Xiaohua to the streetlight near the base. Lu Xiaohua held the gifts we gave him and hesitantly looked at me. Brother, are you sure you don't want to come inside for a bit? Huge and the others all really miss you, but they've never seen you. They even insisted on coming with me this time. I glanced toward the base, my gaze unconsciously turning a little melancholic. No need. You should go back. Lu Xiaohua was still hesitating, but I cut him off. Then, are you willing to come with me to visit my family? After all, they can be considered your family too. Lu Xiaohua instantly fell silent. If it were for a casual gathering, that would be fine. But a private meeting like this would be the worst for someone with social anxiety. I smiled and patted his head. Go back. This time, Lu Xiaohua didn't say anything else. I got back into the car. As soon as I did, Mengyao clung to me. I didn't embarrass you, did I? I raised my hand and pinched her cheeks, pulling them from side to side. Do you really have that little confidence? Mengyao grabbed my fingers and bit me lightly. After all, she's the only family you had before reuniting with yours. I still wanted to earn her approval. That way, you wouldn't feel caught in the middle. My heart warmed. You did really well, and you probably don't know this, but before you went over, Xiaohua was so on edge his whole body was bristling. He looked like he was ready to tear you apart at any moment. But the moment you showed up, his attitude softened instantly. You didn't embarrass me at all. You made me proud. Mengyao smiled. Then do I get a reward? I raised an eyebrow. What kind of reward do you want? Mengyao didn't answer. Instead, she kissed me directly. Yang Ting was already used to this kind of scene. She skillfully raised the partition. The atmosphere in the back seat grew increasingly intimate. By the end, Mengyao had gone completely soft in my arms. Are you staying at home tonight, or coming to my place? She hesitated before adding, I don't live with the Yun family. I have my own place in the capital. I chuckled. I'm staying home tonight, then I'll come over later. I shook my head. Recently, my second sister has been visiting a lot more. If you come, she'd definitely find out. Hearing that, Mengyao pouted in disappointment, but she could only accept the fact that she'd be spending the night alone. Later that night, I declined Mengyao's offer to pick me up. As I grabbed my car keys and headed out, I found myself considering whether I should hire a full-time driver. However, the moment I stepped out of the New Star Entertainment building, I suddenly heard a soft screech. A luxurious convertible came to a stop right in front of me. The girl wearing sunglasses didn't even open the car door. She pushed herself off the back of the sports car seat, jumped out, leaving me stunned. And then, Xia Xiaoxiao hugged me tightly. Brother, brother, brother. Smelling the cool pine scent on Xia Xiaoxiao, I thought to myself, so it's a family tradition to love hugging, huh? You flew back so fast? Chen Jing had just returned from filming a variety show and saw the two siblings tightly embracing. Xia Xiaoxiao heard this voice, immediately pulled me aside. Brother, stay away from this person from now on, got it? Chen Jing looked at us silently. I asked curiously, why? Aren't you two friends? Besides, I'm counting on Chen Jing to make me money. After all, Xincheng doesn't have any notable artist right now. Chen Jing is the face of the company. Xia Xiaoxiao was about to explain, but then received Chen Jing's death stare. She swallowed her words instantly. Anyway, just stay away from him. Let's go. Third sister will take you out to have fun. Without even asking for my opinion, she directly pulled me into the car, then started the engine, and sped off in a roar. Dingle watched as the car gradually shrank into a small dot. He raised his hand and nudged Chen Jing. Regret it. Chen Jing shook his head. Regret what? As long as I can see him every day, I'm happy. Dingle looked speechless, hopeless. When Xia Xiaoxiao saw me, it was like she wanted to make up for all the time she missed. She took me to every famous entertainment spot in the capital. It was only until late at night that she finally brought me home. As soon as we stepped in the door, we saw Yang Wanyan, Xia Wanling, and Xia Qingling sitting on the sofa, looking like they were ready for an interrogation. Why didn't you answer our calls? Xia Wanling asked coldly. Xia Xiaoxiao ignoring her own calls was one thing, but she even refused to let her brother answer. If they hadn't known I was with her, they wouldn't have been able to sit still at home. Xia Xiaoxiao confidently pulled me. Then why didn't you tell me that my brother was back, if I hadn't found out myself? How long were you planning to keep it from me? Xia Wanning was at a loss for words. She turned and glared at Xia Qingling. This was indeed their fault in the first place. However, Xia Qingling had no patience at the moment. There was even a suppressed fury in his eyes. He snapped his fingers. Immediately, his subordinates brought Xia San forward. Xia San's hands were tied behind his back. His mouth was stuffed with a cloth. He let out muffled sounds, pleading for Xia Xiaoxiao's help. Xia Xiaoxiao was stunned. What are you doing? Xia Qingling sneered. What am I doing? I'm cleaning up a mess. I did this to protect you, and this is how you repay me. Xia Xiaoxiao felt a little guilty. Then why didn't you tell me my brother was back? Are you saying Mom and Big Sis kept it from me because of your terrible idea? Xia Qingling looked at him with a gaze full of resentment. So, what if it was me? You never stick to anything for more than 3 minutes. You're already 22 years old, and you've accomplished nothing. Meanwhile, our brother is just 19 and already the CEO of you. If you can't make something of yourself, do you even deserve to call yourself his sister? Xia Xiaoxiao was stunned. She looked at me in shock. My brother is the CEO of you? I was suddenly dragged into this, watching my sister get scolded on my behalf. It felt a bit awkward. Third sis is amazing too. The rest of the Xia family may not pay attention, but I knew. At this moment, Xia Xiaoxiao was already highly regarded in the photography world. I didn't deny it, which immediately made Xia Xiaoxiao feel guilty. Xia Qingming issued an order. I booked you a ticket. You're flying back tomorrow. Don't even think about coming home until you've achieved something. I won't. Xia Xiaoxiao clung to me tightly. I just got home. I need more time with my brother before I leave. Xia Qingming glanced at her. Do you think you have the right to say no? I'm not asking for your opinion. I won't. Xia Xiaoxiao still refused to compromise. Xia Qingling looked at Zhang Ying. Take Xia San outside and chop him up. Xia San's body trembled. The muffled sounds from his gagged mouth grew louder. Even Zhang Ying was startled. Second miss. Didn't you hear what I just said? Xia Qingming's tone was absolute and unquestionable. He doesn't even know who his real master is. And he dared to plot against me. What use is a subordinate like that? Xia Wanning looked at Xia Qingming in confusion. What happened? What did our little sister do to make you this angry? Training a subordinate isn't easy, especially since this was an order from Xia Xiaoxiao. No matter what, this shouldn't be enough to kill Xia San. But from Xia Qingling's tone, he doesn't seem to be joking at all. Xia Qingling recalled the events of the night. His face darkened like the bottom of a pot when he found out it was Xia Xiaoxiao's prank. At that moment, he knew she must have already found out about their brother. That's why she dared to mess with him like this. If she dares to do this, she better be ready to pay the price. He couldn't do anything to his own sister. But that doesn't mean he can't deal with a subordinate. Zhang Ying realized this too, which made him even more desperate. Knowing that begging Xia Qingling was useless, he turned to Xia Xiaoxiao instead. Third miss, please say something. Xia San was only following your orders. You can't just let him die like this. Of course, Xia Xiaoxiao wouldn't just ignore this. Xia Qingling was truly furious. There was no room for negotiation in his eyes. Reluctantly, she said, "Fine, I'll go back. But when I make a name for myself, you better not stop me from coming home." Xia San let out a sigh of relief, his entire body drenched in cold sweat. Xia Qingling had achieved his goal, so he no longer made things difficult. Let him go. Xia Xiaoxiao hugged me tightly, unwilling to let go. Brother, once third sis makes it big, no one will ever be able to separate us again. I smiled awkwardly and nodded. You're making it sound like we're star-crossed lovers. Remember, you're my sister, okay? Besides, after being dragged around all night, I was so exhausted my bones felt like they were falling apart. Spending time with her every day would be unbearable. Xia Qingling also shot Xia Xiaoxiao a glare. It's late, go to sleep. Your brother needs to rest too. Only then did Xia Xiaoxiao reluctantly let go. That night, I didn't sleep very soundly. When I opened my eyes, I was met with a pair of glowing, cat-like eyes. Startled, I instinctively grabbed the figure and pinned them to the ground in a hold. "Ow, brother, it's me," I heard Xia Xiaoxiao's voice from below. I was stunned. "Third sis, what are you doing here?" Saying that, I let go and turned on the light. Xia Xiaoxiao rubbed her sore hand. Her eyes filled with grievance. "I have to leave at dawn. I just wanted to see my brother a little longer." I was speechless. I had heard about how the Xia sisters doted on their brother. But after these past 2 days, my understanding had been completely shattered. "Brother, go to sleep. I'll just sit here and keep watch. I promise I won't disturb you." I glanced at her helplessly. How can I sleep with someone staring at me? There's no way. I'm not sleepy anymore. I sighed and pulled up a chair for Xia Xiaoxiao. "Let's just chat instead." "Sure." Xia Xiaoxiao stretched her long legs and sat cross-legged on the chair, resting her chin on her hands as she looked at me. "What do you want to talk about?" I picked a random topic. "Let's talk about our father. How did he disappear? And why didn't you look for him?" According to Xia Wanning, our father disappeared on the day I was born. But they never looked for him. "That guy?" Xia Xiaoxiao scoffed indifferently. There wasn't even a hint of respect in her tone. "A total scumbag. Why would we look for him?" I was stunned. But wasn't he suffering from amnesia back then? Mom took him in and cared for him. She gave him a new identity and let him run the company alongside her. In the end, she even gave herself to him. She bore him 3 children, and yet, that scumbag repaid kindness with betrayal. On the day you were born, he regained his memory. He left behind a letter and just walked away. He said he had a family before, and that he deeply loved his wife. At this point, Xia Xiaoxiao let out a cold laugh. So after all those years of mom supporting him and raising 4 children together, none of that mattered compared to his true love. He didn't even want to stay a single day longer. He left at the most critical moment right when mom was giving birth to you. If not for that, that day wouldn't have turned into such a disaster. We wouldn't have lost you. Big sis was only 9 years old at the time. She couldn't handle everything alone. Both you and he disappeared. And our so-called relatives took advantage of the chaos. They tried to seize the company. If it weren't for mom's sheer willpower, she might not have even survived the surgery. So tell me, why would we look for him? Even if we did find him, I'm afraid second sis wouldn't be able to hold back. After listening to this, a dark shadow settled over my heart. No wonder they treated him as if he were dead. Most people would have done the same. The fact that my mother managed to hold the Xia family together was truly impressive. And yet, somehow, I felt like there was more to the story. How could it be such a coincidence? The exact day I was born, my father just happened to regain his memory. And as a human being, even if it was my never-met father, who loved his original wife more? Could he really have been so heartless as to leave on the very day my mother gave birth? Thinking about this, I asked, "Did you read that letter? Was it in our father's handwriting?" "I know what you want to say, Dealey. That letter was indeed written by him," Xia Xiaoxiao affirmed. "We, the Xia family, are not naive." Afterward, we checked the surveillance. In the footage, we saw with our own eyes him writing that letter. Then packing up and leaving, my heart turned cold. If there was no coercion, then this person was truly cold-hearted. I couldn't help but think of Su Lingyan. Although we never officially became husband and wife, I had sacrificed a lot for her. Yet, I also met a bad end. At this point, I had no intention of searching for my father. After all, my top priority was still revenge. And if I found him, only to discover that he was just like that, it would only reopen the wound in my mother's heart. But I still asked another question. "Do you have a photo of our father? What do you want to see him for? He may look human, but he doesn't act like one," Xia Xiaoxiao muttered. But seeing that I wanted to see, she still pulled out a photo from her phone. It was an old-looking photo. "This is him." I took the phone and glanced at it. I was instantly stunned. I had seen this photo before. Our Section 7 had received a missing person request. The target was this exact face, but the client was anonymous. They didn't want anyone to know they were looking for this person. And what's more mysterious was that the mission failed. The intelligence network of Section 7 is incredibly strong. Even criminals that Interpol couldn't track down, we could find in just half a month. Yet this man seemed to have vanished into thin air. We spent an entire year searching, but found nothing. Master Key even said, "If this face is real, then this person must be dead, and the body was either cremated or buried." After all, we have compared with all well-preserved bodies. We didn't find any clues. The person who placed the request didn't seem to care much. When no results came up, they just dropped it. "What's wrong, brother?" Xia Xiaoxiao noticed my reaction and couldn't help feeling puzzled. "Nothing," I said, handing back the phone. "If father is already dead, then finding him is meaningless." Across the ocean, inside an ancient castle, a handsome middle-aged man sat up from his bed. He picked up the internal phone line next to him. Soon, a butler in a tailcoat entered. "How's the progress?" The man listened to the thunder and rain outside and rubbed his itchy nose. "Still no news." The butler lowered his head even further. "I have failed." The man waved his hand tiredly. "Leave." As the butler left, he sneezed again. "Who's cursing me?" I talked with Xia Xiaoxiao almost until dawn. When I arrived at the company, I yawned 6 times within 10 minutes. Even my steps felt unsteady, just as I couldn't hold on any longer and wanted to take a quick nap in the lounge. Someone knocked on my office door. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Come in." Su Feng opened the door and walked in. "President Liu, there's trouble again with Chen Jing." My fingers froze. "What happened?" Su Feng explained. "Today was the opening ceremony for his new film, but the director suddenly decided to replace the female lead." I frowned. "Who's the replacement?" Su Feng paused briefly, before adding, "Chen Yui, a top-tier actress. She voluntarily lowered her fee to get this role." That last sentence explained why the director made the change. After all, compared to a second-tier actress, the same budget, being able to cast a more popular A-list star, who would say no to that? As for why Wu Yanfen would do something that harms others without benefiting himself, the reason isn't hard to guess. It seems Su Lingyan still hasn't learned to stay in line. I grabbed my car keys. "Tell me the filming location." If it were any other project, with just this director and production team, dropping it wouldn't be a big deal. But Kangyu is different. Based on my past life's memories, I know this drama will become a huge hit, even if it isn't well received at first, and even if parts of the script are cut due to budget issues. The show itself will still explode in popularity. It will take Chen Jing, who has been struggling in second-tier roles, and push him to top-tier stardom. So no matter what, this drama cannot be given up. Su Feng hesitated for a moment. "I know the place. I'll drive." Although he didn't know why, he could tell I was exhausted. I didn't want to risk driving while tired, so I tossed the keys to him. But just as I took 2 steps, someone hesitated before asking, "President Liu, Do you have some kind of grudge against Tianyu? Su Feng felt that Chen Jing breaking his contract shouldn't have caused such a major reaction. It shouldn't have led to Tianyu's relentless suppression, but judging by recent events, it was clear that Tianyu was determined to blacklist Chen Jing. They didn't even want their own artists to suffer losses. Yet they refused to give Chen Jing any way out. Clearly, there was some deeper grudge involved. I chuckled and glanced at him. So what if I say yes? What do you plan to do? Report it to higher-ups? Get me removed from my new position? Su Feng immediately panicked. I wouldn't dare. I was just curious, so I casually asked. But I definitely don't have any other intentions. President Liu, please don't be mad. If I can keep Chen Jing around, he won't hold anything against me. I sneered. Ever heard of curiosity killed the cat? Being too slick isn't good. Being too rigid makes people dislike you too. You should learn from Manager Tsai on this. After saying that, I didn't wait for his response and walked out. When I arrived at the filming site, I saw Chen Jing standing far away with his hands in his pockets, leaning against a tree, even though he was supposed to be the original female lead. At this moment, he looked like a complete outsider. I suppressed the irritation in my heart and stepped forward. Chen Jing heard my footsteps and lifted his eyes. This time, seeing me, he didn't have much of a reaction, nor did he ask how I knew about this. He simply said in a guilty tone, I've caused you trouble again. You're only being targeted because of me. So don't let it weigh on you. My words carried a reassuring strength. And you don't need to worry about your future. Since I chose to keep you, I won't betray your trust. After saying that, I looked around. Where's the director? What are you going to do about this? Chen Jing didn't answer. From what he said last night, he had realized I didn't want to rely on my family. And this time, no one else from the Xia family was here. So how could I go against the director? You don't need to worry about that. I showed no signs of concern. At that moment, I suddenly spotted Dinglai at the entrance of a cafe across the street. The film crew's director, Chen Xinhao, was beside him. On the phone, his face tense the entire time. He didn't even glance at Dinglai. This time, I didn't need Chen Jing to point the way. I strode straight toward them. Dinglai saw me and for some reason, let out a sigh of relief. President Liu, you're here. I nodded. Go reassure Chen Jing. I'll handle things here. Dinglai glanced at Chen Xinhao, who was still on the phone. After giving me a nod, he left. I took over Dinglai's spot. I could hear the pleading tone in Chen Xinhao's voice. On the other end of the call was President Cao. Our script is really good. And now we even have an A-list actress as the female lead. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? But we've already signed the contracts. And all the props and sets are ready. If you pull the funding now, you're practically killing me. Today is *Kangyu*'s opening ceremony. I'm too busy to handle this now. If you really want to withdraw, can't you wait a few days? But I still hope you'll reconsider. Let's talk in person, okay? Hearing Chen Xinhao desperately pleading, I couldn't help but smirk. *Kangyu*. This drama really wasn't well received at first. Otherwise, it wouldn't have suffered. Budget cuts due to lack of investment, the plot, combined with an unknown cast, and a production team without reputation, led to almost zero anticipation before its release. So, no one expected it to become a hit. It even went viral overseas. Seeing that Chen Xinhao had finished his call, I took the initiative to approach him. Director Chen, short on funding. Chen Xinhao had already noticed me. He had also overheard my conversation with Dinglai. He knew I was from Xinch, so his attitude was anything but friendly. This has nothing to do with you. His words were dismissive. Just leave me alone. Swapping out a second-tier actress like Chen Jing for an A-list star with built-in popularity, without spending extra money on salaries, anyone would know what choice to make. I thought to myself, this guy sure is blunt. Director Chen, you're overthinking it. I just wanted to talk about investment. I know exactly how much you're still short. I can invest that amount for you. And if you need more funds later, you can come to me. Chen Xinhao was momentarily stunned. He looked me up and down. You're a Xinch executive. I nodded. That's right. Chen Xinhao's face immediately turned to disappointment. Xinch barely makes enough from Chen Jing to keep the company running. You have money to invest in me. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? I chuckled. Xinch may not have money. But before I could finish, Chen Xinhao impatiently interrupted me. If you don't have money, then what's the point of talking? I've seen plenty like you. Don't waste my time with empty words. If you have time to chat, I'd rather make a few more calls to find real investors. As he spoke, his eyes suddenly lit up. President Zhu, a man in his 40s, dressed in a sharp suit, paused his steps. He looked at Chen Xinhao in confusion. President Zhu, I'm the director of Kangyu asterisk. Chen Xinhao walked forward with a flattering smile. About the investment we discussed earlier. Have you given it any more thought? I've even replaced the female lead with a top-tier actress, Wu Yanfen. And I have a strong feeling this drama is bound to be a hit. If you invest now, you'll make a fortune in the future. President Zhu had already politely rejected Chen Xinhao's proposal before. He hadn't expected to run into him while grabbing a coffee. Yet here he was, clinging on like a persistent leech. Instantly, President Zhu felt irritated. He was about to ignore him and walk away. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed me and paused. His expression immediately changed. He quickly composed himself and approached me. President Liu, what brings you here? Are you still willing to invest in me? Chen Xinhao looked at me in disbelief. In the entertainment industry, people tend to follow power and status, but they're also sharp. For President Zhu to speak so respectfully, it was clear that I was more than just a Xinch executive. I smiled and replied, I'm here to discuss investment with Director Chen. President Zhu was taken aback again. He then turned to Chen Xinhao with an odd expression. If President Liu is offering to invest, why are you still looking for other investors? Chen Xinhao looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He wanted to dig a hole and disappear. Seeing his reaction, President Zhu found it amusing. Then he casually dropped another bombshell. Even if he weren't a company president, is Mr. Liu still the young master newly found by the Xia family? If he is willing to invest in you, you don't have to seek other investors anymore. At first, he only knew me as the president of Yoayu. Even though everything is based in the imperial city, he collaborated with Yoayu. Through this recognition from the Xia family, he just realized that this person is actually the long-lost young master of the Xia family. Enough. Stop talking. I saw Chen Xinhang looking utterly hopeless. I timely reminded Zhu Teodao. Mr. Zhu, are you going for coffee? In the business world, after interacting for a long time, every word and action of both parties can easily convey unspoken understanding. Zhu Dao immediately responded, then you guys continue talking. I'll take my leave first. I'll find a chance to have a drink with Mr. Liu later. After saying that, he turned and entered the cafe. Chen Xinhang looked at me blankly. Mr. Liu, are you still willing to invest in me? I looked at Chen Xinhang and asked, then the female lead is still Chen Jing. The female lead is definitely Chen Jing. Chen Xinhang immediately guaranteed, as soon as we sign the contract, I'll have Wu Yanfen leave immediately. I cursed him as an old fox in my heart, but outwardly remained calm. Then, Director Chen, go prepare the contract. At the launch event, Wu Yanfen arrived late with his assistant, wearing sunglasses. Seeing Chen Jing with an uncertain expression, Wu Yanfen paused, raised his hand to remove his sunglasses, and laughed while wiping them. Why are you still here? Didn't the director inform you about the female lead change? On the surface, his words seemed harmless. Just a normal question. But the mockery in his eyes was undisguised. Chen Jing ignored him. Dingla stepped in to shield her. We're standing here, and it doesn't concern you, does it? Besides, our contract hasn't been terminated yet. The female lead might not be yours. Wu Yanfen sneered. Do you think I even care about this stupid drama's female lead? If it weren't for Mr. Su covering his full pay and promising him future resources, he wouldn't have dropped a well-produced project with a strong production team, coming here to take on this flop project that obviously won't make waves. After saying that, he ignored the two of them. He stepped forward towards the crowd. Wait a moment. A female star in costume raised her hand to stop him. The director hasn't arrived yet. At this moment, a crew member also came over, handing him a costume for the female lead. Mr. Wu, please change into this first. Wu Yanfen glanced at the costume in his hand. I don't wear clothes that others have worn, nor do I wear this kind of garbage. The crew member quickly explained, but we don't have enough budget. We can't get investors. How are you even making this drama? Wu Yanfen's assistant couldn't help but chime in. Our Mr. Wu even lowered his standards to join your production, and he even took a pay cut. And this is how you treat him? Wu Yanfen gave his assistant an approving look. Then he crossed his arms and said, the costume issue is non-negotiable. Go talk to the director. If he doesn't make me a new one, I won't shoot this drama. Just as he finished speaking, a male voice filled with anger rang out. Then leave if you don't want to film. Who are you trying to threaten? Xincheng walked over with a cold face. He truly hadn't expected Wu Yanfen to be so difficult. If he really replaced the female lead with him, wouldn't he just be bringing in a diva? Wu Yanfen stood frozen in disbelief, as if he couldn't comprehend what he had just heard. The director actually told him to leave. Do you even know what you're saying? After snapping out of it, Wu Yanfen's eyes narrowed. Ever since he became famous, everywhere he went, people worshipped him. No one had ever dared to humiliate him like this, especially not a third-rate director. Just because I agreed to take this drama doesn't mean you can just boss me around. After securing new investment, Xincheng's whole demeanor changed. Do I look like I'm joking? I'll tell you formally now. We don't need you in this drama anymore. You are no longer needed for this drama. You can go back now. Dingla, seeing this, excitedly patted Chen Jing's shoulder. I told you, Mr. Lu would definitely have a way. Chen Jing looked at Xincheng in a daze. Then at me. A mix of indescribable emotions and a strange tightness filled her heart. At this moment, Wu Yanfen finally realized the gravity of the situation. It wasn't that he particularly cared about this drama. It was just that this was an assignment given to him by Mr. Su. If the project fell through like this, how would he explain it to Mr. Su when he returned? Thinking about this, his attitude softened slightly. I'm not an unreasonable person. Since the budget is tight, I'll let the costume issue go. Wu Yanfen had assumed that after his so-called generosity, Xincheng would back down. But just as he finished speaking, he saw the other party smile slightly. It's not about the costume. Right now, I still think Chen Jing is the more suitable female lead. You should go back. For Wu Yanfen, lowering his pride was already a huge step, but the other party still wouldn't budge. How could he not be furious? Top quality productions are lining up to cast me. Do you really think I care about this drama? Remember, you're the one who turned me down. When my schedule is full, don't regret it. Even if you beg me then, I won't change my mind. After saying this, he grabbed his assistant and left. Xincheng shook his head and sighed. Then, turning to look at me, his expression changed back to that of a fawning sycophant. Mr. Lu, are you satisfied with how I handled this? I ignored his flattering tone. I simply said, focus on making a good film. Don't disappoint me. Xincheng patted his chest and promised, of course. After giving a few instructions to Chen Jing, I turned and got into the car. Su Feng looked at my tired expression in the rearview mirror. His voice softened unconsciously. Mr. Lu, are we heading back to the company? Although he couldn't hear what was being said outside, seeing Wu Yanfen leave with a grim expression, he also realized that the matter had been resolved. His admiration for me grew even deeper. I pinched the bridge of my nose and responded with a hum. Then I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes to rest. Back at the company, I took a quick nap in the lounge. After regaining my energy, I called Simon over. Besides Chen Jing, are there any other artists in the company? To develop the entertainment company and compete with Tianyu, just having Chen Jing is obviously not enough. I need fresh talent to strengthen the company. If the existing artists in the company have potential, then they can also be trained. Ever since she found out that I was Lu Xiaohua's brother, Simon's eyes practically lit up when she looked at me. Besides Chen Jing, there are 5 male artists and 1 female artist in the company. I reviewed their profiles. After a moment, I tapped lightly on the table. Have this girl, Qiyuan, come see me. Dismiss the others. Simon responded with a nod. Why are you dismissing the others? I pushed the documents forward. They've been signed with the company for so long, yet they've all been idling away, just waiting for resources to come to them. Forget about new agencies struggling with resource shortages. Even big companies wouldn't bother promoting artists like them. But Qiyuan, this girl, has no resources, no connections. Not even a manager. But despite that, even as an extra in film sets, she never let herself stop working. Even though I never saw this girl rise to fame in my past life, I'm willing to give hardworking people a chance. Simon accepted the file and nodded. I'll take care of it right away. Before long, a knock sounded on the office door. After getting permission, a girl with a ponytail walked in cautiously. Mr. Lu, you wanted to see me. I looked her up and down. For an entertainment company to take an interest in her, her looks were naturally above average. Do you have any upcoming gigs? At the mention of work, Qi Yuan's eyes lit up. Director Feng's new drama has a roll-up for recasting. I want to try out for it. I want to give it a try. The Linglang, the legitimate daughter of the Yangmei royal mansion, pray for the wish list. Surprised that Mr. Lu knows. Of course, he knows. Feng Yihong is a top director in the entertainment industry. His whereabouts are the focus of major entertainment companies. Even if he only assigns a minor role with few scenes, it can still bring some fame. At this moment, I caught a glimpse of Mengyao standing by the office door. She was looking at me with an unreadable expression. I didn't know how long she had been standing there. I looked at her and asked, "Why are you here?" Mengyao slightly parted her red lips and said, "To pick you up from work." She paused for a moment and added, "You go ahead, don't mind me." So, I really ignored her. Instead, I turned to Qi Yuan. "Play a role for me to see." Qi Yuan, caught off guard, was suddenly called out. He immediately started preparing himself. He blinked, and in an instant, his expression transformed. Within seconds, he was fully immersed in the role. I raised an eyebrow, my gaze focusing on Qi Yuan. By the time Qi Yuan finished his performance again, I had completely lost my initial indifference. I didn't expect him to have such a strong acting talent. I couldn't help but ask, "Are you self-taught?" Qi Yuan nodded a little shyly. "Art school tuition is too expensive, so I became an extra instead." I thought to myself, no wonder. Someone with this kind of talent just needs proper guidance. Otherwise, he wouldn't still be unknown, even in my past life. This person never became famous, but I believe he won't stay in the shadows forever. I've really found a hidden gem. You should head back first. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Now that I have found this treasure, I was in a great mood. I almost forgot how Mengyao had been looking at me earlier. After Qi Yuan left, I tidied up my desk and got up to leave. "Let's go." But before I could step out of the office, I was suddenly hugged by Mengyao. I could feel her unusual emotions. I raised my hand and patted her shoulder. "What's wrong?" Mengyao looked at me and asked, "Do you believe in past and present lives?" My body tensed up suddenly. For a moment, countless thoughts rushed through my mind. I didn't give her a direct answer. Instead, I asked with a trembling voice, "Did you remember something? Did she regain memories of a past life?" My reaction only confirmed Mengyao suspicions deep inside. She couldn't quite describe how she felt. It was even more painful than when she first found out I was with Su Lingyan. "So this is why you've been rejecting me all this time? Is this why you went to such lengths to find him?" I was stunned. Her words didn't sound like someone who had memories of a past life. It was more like she had figured out my ancient past. But that couldn't be. Even if she suspected I was from ancient times, she wouldn't necessarily link it to Su Lingyan. Did you watch the Xia Dynasty drama? Back then, when I couldn't find Su Lingyan, I turned our first life story into a script and had it filmed. If Su Lingyan had past life memories, he would know I was looking for him after watching the drama. And in fact, that was how I eventually found Su Lingyan. But he didn't remember anything and come looking for me. Instead, Suzy had played a role in the drama, and I spotted him when he came to visit the set. If Mengyao had watched the drama, then everything would make sense. "You wrote the drama. How could I not watch it?" Mengyao bit a strand of her own hair. A shadow of darkness seemed to cloud her eyes. It was deep and unfathomable. "So, in your past life, you two were already together, and in the end, you even died for love." I quickly explained. "Mengyao, don't think like that. And it wasn't really the past life. And it wasn't exactly dying for love either." Mengyao pressed on. "Then why do you hate him so much now? And why are you with me instead?" Mengyao didn't know what was in my heart. She seemed to be trapped in an obsession, eyes slightly turning red. I couldn't see his expression, but I could feel his emotional turmoil. I made up my mind to tell him about the second move. But just as I opened my mouth, a finger was placed on my lips. Mengyao pressed her thumb against my lips. "Don't speak. I don't want to know." He feared the truth would be too much for him to bear. Once upon a time, he thought having me was enough. But human hearts are always greedy. Knowing my deep connection with Su Lingyan, his heart was filled with the urge to kill. He held my hand and said, "We're not going home tonight. Come to my place." After saying that, Mengyao took my arm and walked out. As we reached the company entrance, we ran into Chen Jing, who had just returned from filming. Seeing me being easily held by a woman, Chen Jing widened her pure eyes in disbelief. "You two are," I introduced her generously. "This is my girlfriend." Chen Jing's heartbeat stopped for a moment. "So, President Liu has a girlfriend." Seeing the disappointment in her eyes and the fleeting sorrow, Mengyao felt a surge of jealousy. She still didn't know that someone in my company also had feelings for me. So, put away those unnecessary thoughts. From now on, keep a professional distance from your boss. After Mengyao's warning, she continued walking with me. Because of Mengyao's words, I turned to glance at Chen Jing, but Mengyao quickly pressed my head back forward. On the way back, the car was completely silent. The usual flirtatious atmosphere was gone. In the driver's seat, Yang Ting felt uneasy. Are they having a fight? But after arriving at Mengyao's place, Yang Ting realized he didn't even step inside. Mengyao blocked him at the door. At the same time, all the servants in the main villa were also driven out, suspected of domestic violence. Mengyao didn't even enter the building. In the living room, he pressed me onto the sofa. Did he really think his heart could ever heal? After learning about my love story with Su Lingyan spanning 2 lifetimes, he wished he could drag both of us to hell with him. I raised my eyebrows slightly. Since my rebirth, I had never resisted being intimate with Mengyao. But this was the first time I felt a trace of fear in my heart. An illusion as if I was about to be completely devoured, but I still tried my best to endure it. Calming Mengyao's explosive emotions. Sensing something unusual in me, Mengyao suddenly stopped. His mind cleared for a brief moment. He stared straight at me and asked, "Liu Yan, do you love me?" He clenched my hands tightly. I struggled slightly. At the beginning of my rebirth, I was with him out of gratitude. But after spending so much time together, his face and temperament had long been engraved into my bones. When we were apart, I would think about him constantly, even though I had never been deeply intimate with Mengyao. I didn't resist doing such things with him. Even though he carried a hint of frustration right now, all I felt for him was endless heartache and indulgence. Was this love? Thinking this, I lifted my chin and kissed him. "I love you," I whispered. Mengyao licked his lips, his eyes narrowing into a slit. "Liar. But so what if you love me or not?" A hint of madness flickered in his eyes. "This time, you came to me willingly. No matter what, I won't let you leave again. If you ever try to abandon me in the future, I will lock you up. You won't be allowed to go anywhere, except by my side," he repeated viciously. "I really will lock you up." I found it a little amusing. "You can lock me up right now if you want." Mengyao looked at me seriously. "I'm not joking." "Neither am I," I replied, recklessly testing the dangerous edge. "As long as you want, you can do whatever you want with me." Sure enough, hearing my words, Mengyao's eyes flickered. "This is what you asked for." After saying that, she fiercely sealed my lips. The next morning, I glanced at the time, hesitating. Should I or not go to the company? But then I received a call from Simon. When I answered the phone, a surprising voice came through. "President Liu, I got the role of the Linglong. And the scene I auditioned for happened to be the one you taught me." The director even praised me. Listening to the excited voice of the little girl, I chuckled and responded, Then I said a few encouraging words. After hanging up the phone, my mood brightened a little. Although there were some ups and downs, overall, things were moving in a good direction. After arranging everything for the company's artist, the next thing was a headache. Thinking about the global sensation group I built in my past life, I grabbed my car keys and was about to leave. Mengyao reached out and stopped me. "It's almost night. Where are you going?" Since there was nothing urgent, I explained, "I'm going out as a talent scout, looking for some good talents." After saying that, I gave her a reassuring look. "I'll be back tonight." Mengyao's expression changed. "I'll have Yang Ting drive you." I didn't refuse. After getting in the car, I dialed the number from memory. Not long after, the call connected. A gentle voice, like a spring breeze, came through. "Hello." Looking at the retreating scenery outside the car window, I asked, "Is this Mu Yanfeng?" The other side paused. May I ask who this is? Hearing the noise from the phone, I casually asked, where are you now? Mu Yanfeng was silent for a moment. Then his tone became more cautious. Who are you? What do you want from me? What do you want from me? I didn't explain much. Let's talk in person. After saying that, I hung up the phone. After confirming that he was indeed the person I was looking for, I precisely located his phone number. I still remember in my past life how I first discovered this girl group. It was pouring rain that day. I was driving past a plaza where everyone was rushing to find shelter, except for 5 girls who were dancing in the rain, completely immersed in their performance. I stopped my car and watched for a long time. After their performance, I signed all 5 of them. I sent them to the Xincheng training camp. They debuted as the group JRD. After intense training, the name symbolized a dream that even heavy rain couldn't extinguish. The reason I contacted Mu Yanfeng was because he was their leader. Among the 5, he was the most stable one, the one capable of making decisions. Following the phone's location, I asked Yang Ting to drive us to a concert venue. Looking at the huge crowd at the scene, I thought for a moment. Then it clicked. This was a concert for the famous singer Fang Zhikai. At first, I thought Mu Yanfeng was just attending the concert, but according to the phone's tracker, he was moving towards a backstage lounge. The lounge door was slightly ajar. Just as I was about to knock, I heard a frustrated voice. We've been rehearsing for so long, and now you're saying we can't go on stage. You owe us an explanation. I paused my movement. This voice sounded very familiar. It belonged to the youngest member of the group. Peering through the small gap in the door, I took a quick glance. Except for Zhang Jiyang, the other 4 members were there. Standing opposite them was Fang Zhikai and a key member of his team, named Yuan Shiji. Judging by the tension in the room, it was clear that the earlier outburst was directed at him. Things were getting intense. What's the problem with eliminating a few people? Yuan Shiji's tone was obviously dismissive. Mu Yanfeng held back the enraged Tong Zan and looked at Yuan Shiji. With a cold voice, he said, since we're not performing, then at least pay us our wages. Yuan Shiji scoffed as if he had heard a joke. You're not even going on stage, and you still want to get paid. Tong Zan exploded again. You were the one who stopped us from performing. It's not like we canceled on our own. We spent so much time and effort rehearsing for this. Why shouldn't we get paid? I really don't want to repeat myself. Yuan Shiji sighed as if he were helpless. Looking at their handsome faces, he felt a certain itch. No wonder Fang Zhikai was wary of these guys, afraid that their looks would outshine him. Even if it messed up the lineup, he still wanted them gone. But if you want money, there's a way. After all, with faces and bodies like yours, you could fetch a good price. Come to Langshan Hotel tonight and serve me well. Forget just your wages. I can give you this much. As he spoke, he held up 5 fingers. As soon as the words left his mouth, the room fell into an eerie silence. The 4 of them seemed stunned by Yuan Shiji's shameless proposal. Aside from their heavy breathing, no one said a word. So, have you thought it through? All 4 of you together. Let's see if you can be as synchronized in bed as you are on stage. As Yuan Shiji spoke, he reached out toward Tong Zhan's soft, youthful face. But before his fingers could even touch him, a hand suddenly grabbed his wrist. Then asterisk crack asterisk. A sharp snap echoed, followed by Yuan Shiji's blood-curdling scream, shattering the silence in the room. I coldly threw him aside. Pay them what they're owed. The 4 of them turned to look at me in shock. Yuan Shiji, on the other hand, lunged at me, his face twisted with rage. Before he could even get close to me, I kicked him hard, sending him sprawling on the ground. He landed face first, eating dirt. I clapped my hands, looking down at him with contempt. Is this all you got? Security, security. Yuan Shiji struggled, shaking his bloated body as he got up, glaring at me viciously. Don't get cocky. When the security arrives, you won't be walking away from this. Go ahead, call them, I smirked, shaking my phone in my hand. I recorded everything you just said. If this video gets out. I didn't finish my sentence, but the threat was crystal clear. Yuan Shiji's face twisted with panic. He instinctively reached to snatch my phone. but hesitated, remembering my strength. "What do you want?" he asked. I glanced at him indifferently. Didn't I already say, pay them what they're owed? The three young girls, who had been watching in shock, suddenly realized the conversation had turned back to them. Someone was actually standing up for them. They were momentarily at a loss for words. Yuan Shiji, seeing his prey slipping away, felt a deep sense of unwillingness, but he had no choice. Reluctantly, he took out his phone and made the transfer. After sending the money, he glared at me darkly. "Now, delete the video." I turned to the four of them, confirming they had received the money. After getting their nods, I smiled. But I never actually recorded anything. The four girls burst into laughter. Meanwhile, Yuan Shiji's face turned purple with rage. He looked like he was about to spit blood. "You what?" I clenched my fist and blew on it. "You want to get beaten up again?" The fat on Yuan Shiji's face trembled. Pointing a shaking finger at me, he gritted his teeth. "Just you wait." Then he stormed out, slamming the door behind him with a loud bang. After he left, I successfully set up a meeting with the girls to discuss their contract, and then left the concert venue. I was about to get into Yang Ting's car when a black Hummer honked at me. A spark of fire flickered outside the car window, illuminating Xia Xiaoxiao's face. "Little brother, second sister is here to take you home." Remembering the promise I made to young Mengyao earlier, I hesitated before asking, "Second sister, why are you here?" Xia Xiaoxiao pretended not to understand my meaning. She didn't even mention that I had spent the night at Yun Mengyao's place. "I'm here to take you home. You've been out for 2 days. It's time to go back, isn't it?" I took a deep breath, ignoring Yang Ting's eager gaze. Then I bent down and got into Xia Xiaoxiao's car. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was being controlled. Yang Ting quickly took out her phone and messaged Yun Mengyao. Mr. Liu was intercepted by his second sister." Xia Xiaoxiao, having picked me up, was in an excellent mood. She instructed the driver, Zhang Ying, to take us home. Thinking about how Yun Mengyao must be fuming, Xia Xiaoxiao couldn't be happier. The irritation she had been suppressing gradually faded away. But when we arrived home, she was shocked to see Yun Mengyao sitting in the living room, chatting happily with Yang Wan and Yun Xiang. Xia Xiaoxiao was instantly annoyed. She had told her not to sneak in, but here she was, sitting comfortably inside the house. Seeing Yun Mengyao was just as surprised as I was, but considering that the Xia residence was farther from Fang Zhikai's concert than Yun Mengyao's estate, it wasn't too surprising. I just hadn't expected Yun Mengyao to pull something like this. It was almost amusing. Xia Xiaoxiao glanced at her watch. With a dark expression, she said, "Miss Yun, it's quite late for a visit. Don't you think you're being a bit intrusive?" Yang Wan turned and glared at her. "Mind your tone." Then, seeing me, her face brightened. "Xia Yan, you're back. Come here, dear," she said warmly. She was holding a cup of coffee as she walked out of the kitchen, passing by Xia Xiaoxiao. She chuckled smugly. "Are you really that oblivious? You have no place in this house." Xia Xiaoxiao frowned. "Is that illegal?" Even though Yang Wanyan scolded Xia Xiaoxiao, Yun Mengyao still seemed triggered by her words. She immediately stood up. "In that case, I won't disturb Aunt Zia's rest. I'll come back another day." Yang Wanyan was momentarily flustered. After glaring at Xia Xiaoxiao, she turned back and tried to reassure her. "What nonsense are you saying? We're all family now. There's no such thing as disturbing us. Just treat this place as your home. I know you don't mind, Annie, but I don't want to upset second sister," Yun Mengyao said, but still stood up. However, as soon as she got up, she swayed slightly. Yang Wanyan gasped, "Are you all right?" Yun Mengyao shook her head. Rubbing her temples, she said, "Don't worry, Annie. I'm just a little tired. A good night's sleep will fix it." "What did you do to get this exhausted?" Yang Wanyan's concern remained evident in her eyes. "If you're not feeling well, don't go back. Xia Yan, help Mengyao upstairs to rest." A faintly smug smile flashed in Yun Mengyao's eyes, but her voice remained weak. "Wouldn't that be inappropriate?" Yang Wanyan rolled her eyes. "What's inappropriate about it? I told you to treat this as your home. Besides, you and Xia Yan are dating. There's nothing to fuss about." Yun Mengyao had achieved her goal. She no longer pretended, allowing herself to lean on me. I had to admit, I admired her scheming skills. but I played along and didn't expose her act. Xia Xiaoxiao, completely dumbfounded by Yun Mengyao's tricks, stood there in disbelief. When she finally snapped out of it, she immediately tried to stop us, but Yang Wanyan's patience had already reached its limit. Shut up. Xia Xiaoxiao could only watch helplessly as I helped Yun Mengyao upstairs. She was so angry she clenched her teeth. Then she looked over at Xia Wanyan, who was leisurely sipping coffee on the sofa. Her frustration boiled over. Are you dead or what? As the eldest sister, you didn't even bother to stop her. You just let that scheming guy walk right into the house. After finishing your words, you took another sip of your coffee. You didn't even spare him a glance. What's the use of your fighting spirit? You're still just a useless person. Xia Xiaoxiao held back the urge to punch him. Instead, she looked at Yang Wanyan and said, Mom, you've been so wise all these years, yet you couldn't even see through that girl's terrible acting. Stop arguing. Yang Wanyan rubbed her temples in frustration. She sighed and said, Xia Yan's heart is not at home. Instead of letting him run away every day, why not just let that child come here? We've already missed out on 19 years of Xia Yan's life. Rather than interfering in their private lives, I'd rather see Xia Yan every day. Xia Yan heard this. Xia Wanyan smiled calmly. You think you're the only one who sees things clearly? And have you even looked at yourself? Xia Yan and that guy are a legitimate couple. Xia Qianglin felt wronged. Don't stop him. He's going to run away from home. Upstairs, after helping Yun Mengyao into my room, I let go of her. Stop pretending. Yun Mengyao wrapped her arms around my waist. Was my acting really that bad? I hummed in response. You don't really think my mom didn't see through it, do you? Yun Mengyao was silent for a moment. I know Mom is a good person. My eyes widened. You're already calling her Mom. Weren't you calling her Annie just now? In front of Mom, I can't be too reckless. But in my heart, I already see her as my real mom. Yun Mengyao walked to the bed and sat down. A night like this is worth 1,000 gold coins. We can't waste the opportunity Mom gave us. Omitting 10,000 words below. The next morning, Yun Mengyao, beaming with joy, came downstairs with me for breakfast. Xia Qiangling's face was dark the whole time. I'm not eating. After saying that, he got up and left the table. No one stopped him. Yang Wanyan gave a faint smile. No need to mind him. After finishing our meal, Yun Mengyao drove me to the company entrance. Just as I was about to open the car door and step out, she grabbed my hand. Did you forget something? I hummed in confusion. The next second, Yun Mengyao pressed me against the seat and kissed me. I was completely speechless. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, I pushed her away. What's wrong with you? Yun Mengyao couldn't help but lean in again, lingering for a moment. Go to work. I glared at her, then turned and got out of the car. However, after just a few steps, I saw Chen Jing standing at the company entrance, staring blankly in my direction. He looked completely stunned. Instinctively, I touched my slightly numb lips. For a moment, I suspected that Yun Mengyao had done it on purpose, but before I could even react, her car had already sped away. At this moment, facing Chen Jing, anything I said would be awkward. I considered pretending I hadn't seen him, but he spoke up first. Sorry. I didn't mean to watch. It just happened. I knew he was just passing by, and I had left the car door open earlier. Then, in the moment of the kiss, I had forgotten to close it. I'm going inside now. Chen Jing's ears turned red instantly. He turned around, clearly wanting to escape the awkward situation. But before he could leave, I called out, if you're staying at Xincheng because of me, I can give you a chance to reconsider. After all, you've seen it, I have a girlfriend. That afternoon, the scene of Yun Mengyao and Chen Jing meeting was still fresh in my mind. What once seemed like an impossible suspicion had now been confirmed. Even if Yun Mengyao hadn't pulled any tricks, I still needed to talk to him and make things clear. I wanted to keep him around, but not like this. Is it too embarrassing? Do you not want me anymore? Hearing my words, Chen Jing immediately shook off her previous shyness. Her expression became tense. I admit that I once had improper thoughts about you. But after that variety show incident, I never dared to have any inappropriate thoughts again. Now, I just want to stay pure. And I will never cross the line. Was this to reassure me? His words became more direct. Don't think of me as someone deeply in love. If it weren't for you helping me through both crises, I wouldn't have stayed here. And in the future as well. My top priority will always be my career. I felt relieved. Just as I was about to say something, a black sedan suddenly stopped beside us. A youthful and energetic face peeked out from the car window. Xincheng, we've arrived. I turned my head to look. Sure enough, it was Tong Zhan. 5 energetic girls jumped out of the car. They lined up in front of me. The scene was quite eye-catching. Hello, Xincheng. In the Knights team, apart from Tong Zhan and Lang Bingbing, everyone else was a bit older than me, but I still accepted the way they addressed me. I introduced Chen Jing, who was standing beside me. This is your senior, Chen Jing. The girls glanced at Chen Jing and hesitantly greeted her. Hello, Chen Shiji. Chen Jing came back to her senses. She smiled and nodded at them. Hello. At this moment, Sai Ming arrived at the company. Seeing the group, he looked puzzled. President Liu, who are these beautiful ladies? You came at the right time. I asked for them to be here. They are promising talents I just discovered. Take them to the lounge to wait. Sai Ming nodded. After they were led away, Chen Jing looked at me and asked, I made myself very clear just now. You're not going to drive me away now, are you? I pinched the bridge of my nose and smiled. I barely have enough time to keep you here. I just don't want to do it in that way. You should understand what I mean. Chen Jing let out a light hum. With a slightly proud tone, she said, since you want to keep me here, then treat me well from now on. No matter how many new people you recruit, you can't just forget about me. He knew that for me to grow, the company couldn't have only him as an artist. But seeing a bunch of newcomers arrive, warmly calling me Yanjie, still made him feel uncomfortable. He knew this sense of possessiveness was inappropriate, especially since I already had a girlfriend, but he just couldn't help wanting to hold on to more. His gaze met mine. I didn't know what he was thinking. Hearing his childish words, I smiled and nodded. You are one of the company's founding members, and also a friend of my third brother. In every sense, I will never neglect you. A smile flashed in Chen Jing's eyes. Now that's more like it. After reassuring Chen Jing, I went to draft the contract. Then, I headed to the lounge where Mu Yanfeng and the others were. They were sitting on the sofa, chatting and laughing. As soon as they saw me, they started to stand up to greet me. But things were different from last night. Now, I was technically their boss. I raised my hand slightly. No need for formalities. Saying that, I sat in the single-seater chair across from them, placing the contract on the coffee table in front of me. I said, here's the contract, take a look first. If everything looks good, you can sign it. As they were reviewing the contract, I scanned their faces one by one. Then, I started talking about the plans for Jiwan from my previous life. Once you sign the contract, I will send you to start training camp. You'll be trainees for a while. The company will cover your tuition fees. You have no problems with dancing. You can perform straight away. But in terms of singing and controlling your breath while dancing, you still need practice. Also, you need to improve your adaptability to real stages. Once you're there, there will be designated people responsible for teaching you these things. After some time, there will be a rating test at the training camp. You can try participating in it. Rankings don't matter. It's more of an assessment of your progress. Although I say that, I know that these few individuals have outstanding results. All of them rank in the top 10. They are even better than many trainees who have trained for years. Thinking about this, I tapped my fingers on the armrest of the sofa. During this period, the company will make full preparations for your debut as a group. This includes, but is not limited to, song and dance creation for your debut single, styling arrangements, and the preparation of subsequent albums. Once you finish the test, I will bring you all back. We will wait for the right moment to officially debut. Please listen to me carefully. Read through the contents of the contract. Everyone's expression became serious at the same time. Before coming here, they thought Star Dream was just a small company with very few people. Even though they were promised a debut as a group, they assumed the company didn't really understand how to plan for a girl group's development. But whether it was the content of the contract or what I just said, everything revealed the professionalism of a well-established company. Moreover, if I can fulfill everything I've said, it would mean that we are placing great importance on them. We are fully committed to making them stars. I raised my hand to check the time on my wristwatch. Then I glanced at the 5 silent individuals. Any questions? At that moment, none of them even exchanged glances. Kiki shook her head. I slowly curled my lips into a smile. Then let's sign the contract. Later, I will send you all to start training camp. After they signed the contract, I took them there as promised. On the way back, as I passed by Qianyu Tower, I glanced casually and saw a slim woman being thrown out of the building. The woman's document box fell to the ground. Papers scattered all over the place. I recognized the person who threw her out. It was the HR manager of Tianyu. At that moment, he looked down condescendingly at the woman crouching on the ground, gathering her documents. With arrogance, he mocked. The company has been feeding you for so long, and you still dare to ask for copyright. A washed-up has been like you, living off past achievements. Aren't you ashamed? Did you really think the company would support you forever? After saying that, he stepped on the scattered documents and walked back into the building. The woman stared at the footprints on the papers in a daze. Then, she slumped to the ground in despair. What a coincidence I knew this woman too. She was once the legendary choreographer, Wei Jiaming. I say once because she hadn't produced a good piece in 3 years. Everyone said she had lost her talent, but I knew that Wei Jiaming had just hit a creative block. When I was still at Tianyu, I could support her, guide her, and help her get through it. I never expected that without me, Tianyu would kick her out so quickly. I had long known that Su Lingyan was someone who only cared about profit. Wasn't that obvious? Thinking this, I opened my car door and stepped out. Wei Jiaming looked at the boy who suddenly appeared in front of her. Her dazed eyes slowly regained focus. You are I picked up the scattered papers one by one. Then, I placed them back into the document box. In a calm and indifferent tone, I said, have you never heard this saying? If one place doesn't want you, another surely will. There's no need to let a short-sighted, ungrateful company ruin you. Wei Jiaming stared at my movements. And after hearing my words, her gaze grew even more dejected. But I can't create good work anymore. She murmured, no company wants me. No one would hire a useless freeloader. By the time she finished speaking, her expression was filled with anguish. It wasn't that he hadn't tried looking for other companies, but now, he was even less known than the small-time choreographers on the streets. Every job search ended in rejection. The more famous he once was, the more ruthless the people kicking him while he was down became. He could no longer see any hope. I pressed my lips together slightly. Whether someone has truly lost their talent is not for others to decide. If you're willing, you can come to Stardream and give it a try. Wei Jiaming was taken aback. Stardream may not be thriving right now, but you don't need to worry about the treatment. We won't push you around or exploit you. Wei Jiaming let out a bitter laugh. At this point, just having a company willing to take me in already feels like an honor. How could I even afford to be picky? But I can't choreograph good dances anymore. Are you sure Stardream would want me? Who said you can't choreograph good dances? I retorted. Didn't I just tell you not to listen to those nonsense comments? You've just hit a creative block. Trust me, under my guidance, you'll be even more famous than before. I'm not running a charity. If Wei Jiaming was truly beyond saving, I wouldn't waste my time on him. The reason I say he has just hit a bottleneck is because nearly all of JRD's dance choreographies were primarily created by him. And I only had to give him a new perspective. And he could open up an entirely new world. A legend will always be a legend, even if they briefly lose their way. They can still return to the top. In truth, with my memories of the past life, even without him, I could perfectly recreate all those choreographies, but that glory belongs to him. I don't want it, and I would never take it for myself. So, even if Wei Jiaming hadn't been kicked out of the company, I would have gone to Tianyu to recruit him anyway. This situation just saved me some trouble. Wei Jiaming stared at me intently. Everyone had been telling him that he was finished. Even he was starting to believe it. Slowly succumbing to despair. But this boy in front of him said he was just at a bottleneck. It felt like a lone traveler lost in the desert. Finally seeing an oasis just before collapsing. Suddenly, an oasis appeared. Although I said that I would become even more popular than before, I still feel hopeful. Bird ranking. Jiaming also seemed to be injected with a strong stimulant. His entire mental state changed. But who are you? How can you be sure that Stardream will want me? I reached out my hand. Forgot to introduce myself. My name is Liu Yan. I am the president of Stardream Entertainment. Wei Jiaming was stunned again. He only thought he was just a manager or something. He didn't expect the other person to be the president. No wonder he was so confident when he said he wanted him. He was just about to reach out to shake hands, when suddenly a mocking voice came from the side. So, the person who said he would use Stardream to deal with Qianyu is just picking up the trash we don't want. We turn our heads and saw Suzy walking over with Su Lingyan in his arms. Wei Jiaming heard himself being called trash. He felt a surge of anger. But he wasn't stupid. He could tell that the remark wasn't aimed at him. It was directed at the boy beside him. Do they have some kind of grudge? I turned around and stood up, looking at the siblings. A precious pearl covered in dust can still shine brightly after being cleaned and placed in a different environment. But if one is blinded by greed, in the end, they might not even realize what they've lost. Suzy's smile froze on his face. Why is he always so calm? Aren't they supposed to have the upper hand? You're just being stubborn. A person who hasn't come up with anything good in 3 years is only a treasure in your eyes. But then again, your company never really had any notable artists to begin with. A broken pot with a broken lid. A perfect match. This time, I didn't even bother to respond. I just turned to look at Wei Jiaming. Have you made up your mind? At this moment, Wei Jiaming had already stood up. He nodded at me in a daze. Su Lingyan, standing nearby, looked at me with a complicated expression. Lately, he had been dreaming every night. Dreaming of things that had never actually happened between us. He even dreamed of the drum Lu Yan had mentioned before. It was fragmented. He always felt like he was about to grasp something. But no matter what, he couldn't. Just as he wanted to step forward and talk to me, I turned around and left with Wei Jiaming. After returning to the company, I first signed a labor contract with Wei Jiaming. Then I had him sign a confidentiality agreement. After that, I asked someone to make coffee. It looked like I was ready for a deep conversation. Wei Jiaming sat across from me, a bit nervous. His hands rested slightly stiffly on his knees. I don't have any new inspiration right now. If I interrupted him at that moment. Have you ever learned martial arts before? Wei Jiaming was startled. How do you know? I took a sip of my coffee. Then have you ever thought about incorporating martial arts into dance? Wei Jiaming was once again taken aback. Martial arts and dance. I nodded. Explosiveness is important in dance, and martial arts symbolize power. Integrating some martial arts into dance might bring unexpected surprises. Wei Jiaming fell into deep thought. I continued guiding him as I did in my past life. Additionally, breaking into the A-list scene, standing in the weak spot of group formations. You used to choreograph for individuals. Could you try expanding your scope to choreographing girl group dances? Wei Jiaming's palm tensed. A flash of white light seemed to streak through his mind. A girl group, I nodded. I'm planning to form a 5-member girl group. And we need a choreographer. As I spoke, I placed a document in front of Wei Jiaming. This is what I prepared for them. Their debut single. The lyrics and melody are done. You can use this as a base for choreography. At this moment, Wei Jiaming ... I finally understand why I made myself sign the confidentiality agreement. He looked through the lyrics and melody in his hand. He played the melody in his mind, combining it with my recent hints. The white light in his mind suddenly became clear. Mr. Liu, I think I have some inspiration. I'll go try out the moves I just thought of right now. I smiled and nodded slightly. No rush. You have plenty of time to prepare. After Wei Jiaming left, I was about to make a call when I suddenly received a message from 7th Master. Someone is looking for the miracle doctor again. Should we take it? Who is it? He said his name is Xincheng. His mother is critically ill. I looked him up. He is a top actress under Wagwo Qianyu. The moment I saw that name, memories flooded my mind again. I replied firmly, take it. 7th Master asked curiously, why? Is he pale? I didn't reply. What he was thinking was that Xincheng was not just pale. She is also a top-tier goddess in the entertainment industry, a legendary superstar blessed by fate. As for Qianyu's top artist, Xincheng won't be one for long. Soon, she will belong to me. That's right. I'm going to steal her over. At the same time, in a high-end villa in the imperial capital, young King Yu was staring at an incredibly beautiful face, screaming in shock. What did you say? Unit 7 took the case. Xincheng nodded slightly. Young King Yu was so excited that he completely forgot that someone's mother was lying on the brink of death. If I had known you could do it, I wouldn't have bothered. My cousin. But Unit 7 even rejected my cousin's case. Why did they take yours? Xincheng's thin lips curled slightly. She coldly asked, can he really cure my mother? Young King Yu finally realized his own arrogance and quickly restrained himself, rubbing his chin with his fingers. I'm not too sure about that either. Logically speaking, your mother should have no chance of recovery. But if it's the miracle doctor, who can say for sure? After all, back then, Tanu was also considered incurable, but he turned the impossible into possible. Xincheng narrowed her eyes. Can you leave now? Young King Yu was shocked. How could I leave? I finally got a chance to meet the miracle doctor. Of course, I have to stay and see them in person. Besides, I have some questions to ask the miracle doctor. Xincheng looked reluctant. What if you scare them away? Young King Yu was adaptable. I can hide in the cabinet. The agent standing by couldn't help but click her tongue. Is this really the young lady of the Yun family? Young King Yu's expression darkened, but it was only for a moment. More than being the Yun family's lady. I am a doctor. All right, you have idols in the entertainment industry. And we have idols in the medical field too. To meet the miracle doctor, hiding in a cabinet is nothing. I'd even be willing to crawl under the bed. Xincheng and her agent were completely speechless. After confirming the case, I drove straight to Xincheng's residence. Upon arrival, I carried my backpack and stood outside Xincheng's villa. I reached out and pressed the doorbell. Not long after, a woman in a light blue blouse, with a sharp and shrewd look, came to open the door. I recognized her as Xincheng, Xincheng's agent. When she saw me, she didn't immediately react to who I was or why I was there. She just thought, this young man is really good looking. Excuse me, are you? I just received an assignment from Unit 7. I'm here to treat Xincheng's mother. Xincheng was stunned for a moment, then she looked me up and down in disbelief. I didn't bother being overly modest. I simply nodded slightly. Xincheng examined me a few more times. With a strange expression, she led me to the living room. The moment Xincheng saw me, her reaction was exactly the same as Xincheng's. You're the miracle doctor? I smiled. If you say so, as long as I can cure your mother, that's all that matters. A cunning glint flashed in Xincheng's eyes. You haven't even checked my mother's condition. Yet you're so sure you can cure her? I thought to myself, of course, I'm sure. In my past life, I was the one who treated your mother. The only difference is, back then, I did it to help Tianyu keep Xincheng. This time, I'm doing it to poach her from Tianyu. I'm taking her for Stardream Entertainment. Of course, I didn't say any of that out loud. I can. And right now, I'm your mother's only hope. Isn't that right? If other doctors could help, you wouldn't have placed an order with Unit 7. Hearing me mention Unit 7, Xincheng steadied herself, and though she didn't want to admit it, she knew I really was her last option. Thinking this, she stood up and said, "Follow me." I waved my hand. Wait a moment. Knowing her mother was in no immediate danger, I decided to discuss my terms first. Let's talk about my payment first. The moment I said that, Xincheng frowned slightly. Even miracle doctors care about money? Xincheng, however, remained expressionless. As long as you cure my mother, you can name any price. I raised a finger and shook it. I don't want money, but I need you to agree to one condition. Xincheng nodded. What condition? I didn't answer directly. Is your contract with Tianyu about to expire? Before Xincheng could speak, Xincheng narrowed her eyes. Why are you asking that? So it is. I ignored Xincheng's wary expression and continued speaking on my own. Besides being a doctor, I also have another identity: CEO of Stardream Entertainment. Stardream Entertainment? A bad feeling rose in Xincheng's heart. It was indeed that entertainment company. Looks like you've heard of Stardream Entertainment. But compared to Zhang Jiang, your words are more tactful. I nodded, showing no sign of embarrassment. Then I looked at Xincheng and got straight to the point. My condition is that once your contract expires, you leave Tianyu and sign with Stardream. Before Xincheng could respond, Xincheng exploded. Are you delusional? Do you even know Chinking's status now? Even if she doesn't renew with Tianyu, she'd start her own studio, not join your tiny company. How dare you make such an outrageous demand? Her tone turned sharp. No wonder you said you didn't want money. If Xincheng loses her contract with Tianyu, the future revenue she'd bring far exceeds any amount of money. You're really scheming. I wasn't surprised at all by Xincheng's reaction. She was completely losing it, but I remained calm, resting my elbow on the sofa's backrest. You're right. Business is business after all. But do you have any other choice? My terms are clear. If you want me to treat your mother, then you must sign with me once your contract ends. You have 1 week to decide. After that, even I won't be able to save her. Xincheng stared at me deeply. Can you really cure my mother? Xincheng grew anxious. This guy might not be trustworthy. And besides, we still have a week. Maybe we can find another doctor who can treat your mother. I sighed helplessly. No doctor will guarantee a cure. But I already told you I can. If I fail, you can do whatever you want with me. Xincheng nodded. I agree. Come with me. Xincheng was completely stunned. Xincheng was utterly stunned. Xincheng cast a cold glance to the side. Is my career more important than my mother's life? Xincheng had nothing to say. I chuckled and glanced at Xincheng. Then I followed Xincheng upstairs. Meanwhile, young Yu was hiding inside Xincheng's mother's wardrobe. Hearing the door open, he carefully pushed the wardrobe door open a crack. The next moment, a face so familiar came into view. He had heard that the miracle doctor was a man, and that he was a traditional Chinese doctor. Naturally, he assumed the doctor must be at least 50 years old. After all, traditional Chinese medicine was vast and profound. Even after years of study, he himself had barely scratched the surface. So, could someone please tell him why the so-called miracle doctor was a teenage boy, and worse, his cousin's boyfriend? Wait, no, maybe not. Perhaps he was just a friend of Xincheng, visiting out of concern. Young Yu was about to comfort himself with this thought when he heard Xincheng say, "This is my mother. How do you plan to treat her?" Just as I was about to reply, there was a loud asterisk bang. Asterisk. A person tumbled out of the wardrobe. Young Yu flailed a few times, before finally managing to grab onto the bedpost and stand up. Then, looking embarrassed, he awkwardly waved at me. Hi? He quickly adjusted his disheveled hair. So, you're the miracle doctor? Haha, no way. Kid, are you even human? Is there anything you can't do? Although she hadn't witnessed it firsthand, she had heard of my impressive feats at the banquet. And now, she found out that I was the legendary miracle doctor. Was there anything this guy couldn't do? Thinking of her own equally monstrous younger brother, young Yu couldn't help but sigh. Freaks really do attract freaks. The moment I saw young Yu, I knew exactly what was going on. On one hand, I was mentally preparing myself for the trouble he'd bring. On the other hand, I waved at him. Since you're here, come over and assist me. As I spoke, I opened my backpack, taking out silver needles and other traditional Chinese medical tools. Xincheng looked at the instruments I had laid out. You're a traditional Chinese doctor? I turned to glance at him. Is there a problem? Xincheng voiced the doubt in Xincheng's mind. How can someone so young be proficient in Chinese medicine? I rolled my eyes. You wouldn't understand a genius's world. If you don't get it, just don't ask. Young Yu chuckled and stepped forward. Looking at Xincheng and Xincheng, he said, I forgot to mention, the miracle doctor is indeed a Chinese medicine practitioner. Xincheng knew that statement was meant for her and Xincheng. Though still skeptical, she pulled Xincheng along and left the room. Once outside, Xincheng crossed her arms and said, You don't seriously believe that a boy like him is skilled enough in Chinese medicine to cure your mother, do you? But he was recognized as a miracle doctor by Unit 7. Xincheng looked at her, expressionless. And like he said, I don't have any other choice, do I? Xincheng hesitated. If he really does cure your mother, will you actually leave Tianyu and sign with Stardream Entertainment? A company like that? A person should keep their word. Xincheng's tone was calm. She looked toward the far end of the hallway, her gaze indifferent. And you know very well, I was never that interested in the entertainment industry to begin with. It doesn't matter where I go. But you were born for this career. Xincheng followed her gaze. You love racing. But you'll never be a professional racer, will you? People have to make a living. Xincheng said nothing more. She just turned her gaze toward the bedroom door, as if she were staring at the red-lit sign of an operating room. About 2 hours later. Click asterisk, the door opened from the inside. Wiping the sweat from my forehead, I said. Your mother has woken up. Xincheng's mouth fell open in shock. Xincheng, the glaze-like pupils slightly dilated for a moment. His mother had been in a coma for half a month. Originally, even if I brought her back, she would still need time to recover. But the other party said she had woken up. Before he could react, a slightly weak voice came from the room. Xincheng, are you outside? Xincheng had not yet stepped into the bedroom. At that moment, young King Yu was sitting by the bedside, while checking Hong Jing's pulse. She couldn't help but exclaim. Amazing, truly amazing. Hong Jing's complexion, which was previously pale with a tinge of gray, had now regained a slight rosy hue. She grasped Xincheng's outstretched hand, looking at me with kind eyes. She said, this child is the one who cured me. Truly, a young hero. And such a handsome young man, too. Xincheng glanced at me. Handsome indeed, but the kind that stands out. At first, when he didn't know my identity, he thought to himself, if it weren't for the fact that he already had Xincheng under him, he would have definitely recruited me. But thinking about why I was here, his mood wasn't so pleasant. Now that I had cured Xincheng's mother, it meant Xincheng would be leaving the Tianyu blood dream, and having finally cultivated such a popular artist, she was definitely going to follow her. In other words, this person would become his superior in the future. Hong Jing was completely unaware of Xincheng's inner turmoil. The more she looked at me, the more satisfied she became. How old is this young man this year? Does he have a girlfriend? Sensing the thoughts of the person in front of him, young King Yu's heart immediately screamed, oh no. Before I could speak, she quickly said, Annie, he already has a girlfriend. It's my cousin. Hong Jing let out an "oh," her tone clearly a little disappointed. Xincheng pressed her lips together and held her mother's hand. Mom, you just woke up. Don't overthink things. Get some good rest. I have something to discuss with them. After speaking, he tucked her hand back under the blanket. Turning around, he looked at me. Is my mother fully recovered? I handed him a prescription slip. Follow this prescription. Take 1 dose in the morning and 1 in the evening. She will be fully recovered in a week. Xincheng took the prescription. He nodded slightly at me. Let's talk outside. The group left the room. On the way back to the living room, my steps suddenly halted. I gazed slightly sternly at the wall at the end of the corridor. Following my gaze, young King Yu looked over. At the end of the corridor, a large photograph hung on the wall. On the left side of the photograph was a racer, wearing a helmet and full racing gear, completely covered from head to toe. Only a pair of eyes were visible. On the right side of the racer stood a slightly youthful-looking girl. From her familiar facial features, it was not difficult to tell. This was the famous star, Song Xincheng. However, despite being an idol with tens of millions of fans, she looked like a devoted fanboy in front of this racer. Compared to her usual, cool, and aloof demeanor in front of cameras, this was completely different. This is a photo from years ago, when Xincheng met her racing idol. Xincheng explained, now that he knew I was about to become his superior. His tone had become noticeably more polite. I let out a soft "oh." The corners of my lips slowly curled up. In my past life, I had never noticed this photo, so I never knew Xincheng was actually my fan. For Xincheng, racing was a deeply personal passion. He didn't want outsiders paying too much attention to this hidden joy of his. Just as he was about to urge everyone to leave, his gaze froze as he looked into my eyes. Xincheng noticed and couldn't help but ask, what's wrong? Xincheng hesitated and turned back to look at me. Somewhat doubtful, he asked, do you have an older sister or younger brother? Before I could respond, young King Yu answered for me. Lu Yan is the newly found young master of the Lu family. He has 3 older sisters. Recalling what Xincheng's mother had said, she casually added, Liu Yan and my cousin fell in love on their own. The Xia family and the Yun family are well matched in social standing. If nothing unexpected happens, Liu Yan will marry my cousin in the future. Xincheng showed no reaction to my identity. After all, the Yun family's young lady was right beside him, and he had even less interest in what young King Yu had just said. To be precise, apart from racing, he had little interest in anything else, including the entertainment industry he was in. He quickly went through the three ladies of the Xia family in his mind, finding none that matched the person he had in mind. He returned to his usual indifferent state. Let's go downstairs. In the living room, Xincheng looked at me expressionlessly. With a business-like tone, he said, I won't go back on my word. When my contract expires, I will come to you. Do you need me to sign a guarantee? Hearing this, Xincheng knew the deal was sealed. So he stopped interfering. I smiled and shook my head. I trust you. I have confidence in Xincheng's character. Xincheng gave a faint hum. Then you should leave. Since this is a transaction, I won't say words of gratitude. Until the contract ends, I am still a part of Tianyu. I hope you understand that. At the moment Xincheng found this touching. He was desperately giving him signals. But by the time he finished speaking, Xincheng felt as if a mouthful of old blood was stuck in his throat. Since he had already decided to switch companies, the person before him was his future boss. How could he talk to his superior like this? Instead of currying favor, he was actively offending him. Xincheng seemed completely unaware of how much his manager was stressing out. Although he didn't say much, it wasn't that he had no grudges in his heart. He had no interest in the entertainment industry. To him, it didn't matter where he went, but he hated being coerced. The boy across from him had used his mother's treatment to force him into switching companies. That made him very uncomfortable. He would keep his promise, but he wasn't going to be friendly about it. One look at Xincheng's expression, and I knew exactly what he was thinking. But so what? I enjoy it when people dislike me, but can't do anything about it. I just wondered, if he found out I was his idol, would he still have the same attitude? Don't worry. I won't bother you before your contract expires, I said as I stood up and left. Bye-bye, little fan. Hearing the conversation, young King Yu felt completely left out. But when she saw me leaving, she couldn't sit still. I'm coming with you. After realizing I was a miracle doctor, she had far too many questions. After leaving Xincheng's villa, young King Yu swiftly jumped into the passenger seat of my car. Liu Yan, how did you learn medicine? You're incredible. I fell into a brief moment of thought. The medical skills I have, I actually learned them in my past life, under my master. If anyone was a miracle doctor, it was him. Even in an era with underdeveloped medical conditions, my master was able to create one medical miracle after another. Apart from the 5 grains technique of the southern borders, he knew almost everything, and he taught me everything he knew. Of course, there was no way I was going to tell young King Yu any of that. Get out of the car. Don't be so heartless. At least acknowledge me as your cousin. But young King Yu refused to budge. She even fastened her seatbelt. If you don't want to talk about this, I'll change the question. The Denon syndrome surgery. How did you do it? I simulated it thousands of times, and I always failed. I thought to myself, of course, you failed. Because not only did I use a combination of Chinese and Western medicine, but I also infused internal energy. That's something completely unheard of in modern medicine. So, of course, I couldn't tell her that. Seeing young King Yu gripping the seatbelt tightly, I knew I had gotten myself into trouble. I sighed. Seeing that she had no intention of getting out, I decided to just ignore her. I started the car and drove off. Back at the company, I found myself with a little tail following me. Wherever I went, young King Yu followed. Whenever I could answer something, I did. When I couldn't, I stayed silent. But even so, young King Yu seemed to enjoy following me around. She had an endless list of questions. When it was time to leave work, I quickly walked out of the office, hoping to part ways with her. But just as we stepped out of the company doors, we ran into young Mengyao, who had come to pick her up. Seeing young King Yu sticking to my side, young Mengyao's eyes narrowed. Her cold gaze seemed to pierce right through young King Yu. What are you doing with him? Young King Yu's heart skipped a beat under her cousin's glare. I was asking Xiaoyan for medical advice. Young Mengyao's face darkened. You called him Xiaoyan? Young King Yu was speechless. Wait, Isn't your focus a little off here? What's wrong with calling him Xiaoyan? He's your boyfriend. Can't I call him that? What's with that look? You think I'm trying to steal your man? I already told you. I have no interest in stealing my cousin's man. Young King Yu scoffed. She had even helped him in front of Shang Xingqing's mother. And this was how she was treated. Seeing her reaction, Mengyao finally relaxed. Finally realizing, she asked, "You asked him for medical advice. You didn't know." Young King Yu smirked gleefully. Distant knowledge is visible. I interrupted young King Yu before she could continue. You know, I have some knowledge of traditional medicine. His skills in traditional medicine aren't great, so he just came to ask me a few questions. As I spoke, I shot young King Yu a warning glance. I realized she had a serious problem with keeping secrets. In front of Shang Xingqing, she openly exposed everything, even my identity as the young master of the Xia family. And now she was trying to reveal even more. If this had been before, I wouldn't have minded Yun Mengyao knowing the truth. But I had just rejected her request. If she found out that I was the miracle doctor she had been searching for, but I had taken on someone else's case instead. With her temper, just thinking about it sent a shiver down my spine. I grabbed Yun Mengyao's hand. "Let's go." She glanced at me, noticing my slightly uneasy expression. A flicker of suspicion flashed in her eyes, but she didn't ask any further. Once in the car, Yun Mengyao leaned over and kissed me passionately. Then, brushing against my lips, she asked, "Are we going home or to my place?" I took a deep breath to steady myself. Just as I was about to speak, my phone rang. I slid to answer. The next moment, I heard Su Ling's voice, coming through the speaker. "Lu Yan, are you off work? Let's have dinner tonight. I need to talk about things from our past life."
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe to NiceGamLii channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new content. Your support is a huge motivation for me to keep creating better videos. Once again, thank you so much, and see you in the next video.